With all the welcomed changes recently in WWE, the changes in the presentation, the introduction of different titles, fresh storylines, as well as the spectacular build-up and payoff of WrestleMania 40, it's hard to criticize what Triple H has been doing recently. However, the 2024 WWE Draft might just be his first misstep, with opinions for Night 1 ranging from boring to worst draft ever. I'll tell you why I think that WWE drafts have always been a bad idea, and why it is my hope that this will be the last draft we ever see in the WWE. With the NFL draft taking place last week, it makes sense that WWE would want to play off that with their own version. And while in the past there have been some exciting changes as well as some shocking moments as a result of the drafts, there are far better ways to create excitement and surprise in wrestling. So here are my reasons as to why the WWE draft is unnecessary, and in some ways, harmful to the product. Reason number 1. It is disorienting. While WWE is unique, at the end of the day, it is still a TV show. And when people tune into a certain show, they expect to see certain people. There is a reason shows like Law and Order don't shake things up once a year and move characters between the 3 different shows. And while this reason is minor, it doesn't only affect viewers. Each year after the draft, it takes some time for creative to figure out what to do with all the new people on each brand. It can be quite a while before each show feels like they are running on all cylinders again. Reason number 2. The PLE problem. The draft almost always seems to happen right before a PLE, which ends up hurting those events. Match outcomes can become predictable based on who got drafted where. Feuds can be ended abruptly, and match outcomes can sometimes seem irrelevant because who wins and who loses does not matter when one of the participants won't be on the same show the next week. Reason number 3. It makes recent signings nonsensical. The introduction of Nick Aldis as the new SmackDown GM signaled that the WWE brand split was about to become more rigid. No longer would some people be seen on both shows every week, and this also meant that once again both shows and their respective GMs would be competing against each other. In the coming months and years, this competition between the 2 brands might heat up, but as of right now it has only been seen when it comes to signing new talent, such as Jade Cargill or Bron Breakker. A yearly WWE draft makes these signings nonsensical, as was seen with Breakker getting drafted to Raw last Friday. Spending time wooing talent to your brand doesn't really make sense when once a year you can just draft them. Reason number 4. The draft hurts NXT talent. There have been some wrestlers from the NXT brand that have been successful after being drafted, but there are just as many, if not more, than have not. Bringing talent up from NXT just to involve them in the draft rather than having a creative plan for them does these people no favors. Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn know about this, being drafted just last year and then almost immediately disappearing from TV. Unfortunately, Zion Quinn, Cameron Grimes, Xia Li, and the members of Indus Sher also know this, with them all being released from the company recently. Reason number 5. The draft restricts creativity. There are many ways wrestlers can move from one brand to another. As a kid in 1993 watching Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair wrestle in a loser leaves the WWF match, I was highly invested being a Mr. Perfect fan. There was no internet to expose all the behind-the-scenes stuff, whose contract might be up, etc. It was just 2 guys fighting for the last time, with one of them being gone after that match. Utilizing something like this to get a wrestler to a different brand would be a lot more compelling and entertaining than people reading out names once a year. You could have GMs trading stars they are having problems with, or just have someone randomly show up because their contract just expired and they signed with the other brand, similar to Lex Luger switching companies in 1995. There are many creative ways people could switch brands that would be much more entertaining than the draft. Reason number 6. The draft hurts brand affiliation. Having so many people switch brands each year with a draft hurts the affiliation of certain wrestlers with a certain brand. As it is now, this isn't a big deal, but if WWE ever wanted to bring back the bragging rights pay-per-view or a similar concept, or do a brand switch like the Lex Luger example, someone would need to be seen as a Raw or SmackDown guy for it to have the same effect. One of the main reasons the WCW invasion angle didn't work in WWE is because while those guys worked for WCW, most of them weren't seen as being WCW guys. Reason number 6.5. The draft takes away what ifs. Without a rigid brand split, where people are on specific brands for multiple years, there can be no what ifs. Growing up reading different wrestling magazines, There were always what-if scenarios being thrown out. What if this WCW guy wrestled this WWE guy? Over the years, we've seen some of these scenarios play out. Some have not. And while what-ifs are still thrown around today, it just isn't the same. Mainly because, as discussed before, there is little to no brand affiliation within the WWE, in part because of the yearly WWE Draft. The WWE Draft is like using a butcher knife when a scalpel would work much better. Everything in WWE has been going really well. There was no need to shake things up right now. All three brands are stacked with very talented rosters that are capable of producing new and exciting storylines without any major changes. Yes, change is necessary sometimes to keep things from becoming stale, but as I have described, there are far better ways to do that without hurting the overall product. So what do you think? Do you like the yearly draft? Or do you hope that this year's will be the last? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.